Hello there, my crypto big brothers and sisters. This here is Bulldog Rod, and there's Papa Ron.
Good
What's
morning.
happening? Good morning to you, big brother.
Yeah. Wanted to apologize about yesterday. I guess my mic wasn't properly working, and of course we don't know any of that till people tell us. I should do a test run before, but we're sorry about that.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, we had several comments. I mean, they could hear you perfectly fine. I was kind of faint, so I guess they had to crank the volume up to be able to catch the gist of everything. But anyway, yeah, I should have told you that, Rod.
Oh.
And it helps to have those comments. We had 4 or 5 people say sound problems, but
yeah, really.
And that was probably the best video we had all year. And they didn't get to hear any of it.
Heck, that's cool, huh? Well, I didn't get my other lights on.
Well, Rod's making adjustments on the set.
I turned all the lights on. I forgot them. I got an excuse. I'm an old man. I forget everything.
Let's get on with this, huh? We got. We're going to talk about SegWit 2X, the fork coming up in about 11 days.
It is.
And there is a countdown clock. Of course, this might change a little bit depending on how fast these blocks move, because they've actually pinpointed a block to where they're going to make the fork. So if that block comes a little bit earlier, a little bit later, that clock will adjust for that.
Oh, okay.
At least that's what I understand it. Right here it kind of says that they're on the current block 493,000, and they want to get to 494,000 and some odd to make the fork. So we'll put this link to this clock down in the description box, but I think what we want to do is just kind of discuss what's going on with this, and
yeah, what's the big deal?
See if we can get some understanding. And to do that, maybe we had to go back to Satoshi Nakamoto when Bitcoin and the blockchain was first introduced. He set up the ledger in 1 megabyte block size blocks to hold the transaction information. And when Bitcoin first started, that was fine. There was plenty of room in each block to hold several transactions. These blocks change out about every 10 minutes. A new block is added to the chain. And people are rewarded for discovering those blocks and calculating that mathematical equation and all that. And that's all old news. But the problem came to where as Bitcoin grew and more transactions were added, pretty soon, every 10 minutes, there were more transactions than a block could hold, this 1 megabyte block size. So then the excess transactions would have to sit there and wait till the next block opened up, and then those transactions went into it. And then that one would get backlogged, and pretty soon you're backlogged to get your transaction onto the blockchain could take, several minutes or maybe even a couple hours, depending on how busy and how backed up everything was. Does that make sense, Rod?
Yeah, it
does.
I
explain it? So what they did was they came up with and then what it was is people started paying additional fees. So the miners that kind of correlate all this stuff would take their transaction quicker than somebody who paid lesser fees.
Oh.
So then pretty soon the miners got used to these higher fees, and everybody was paying more fees because they wanted their transaction on the blockchain quicker to get verified, so those funds could be either sent and received and so on. So that's where the high fees started to come in. Well, then they came up with a thing called SegWit, and they adopted that. And SegWit basically did is they took a transaction which has the sender's name and information and the amount he's sending and so on, and they cut the personal information out of the transaction and put that like on a side block. So now the block within the blockchain would just hold the
transaction.
The transaction, not the user's name and all that personal info. Well,
Yeah.
that helped because now they could get more transactions within the block.
Within a block, yeah. That makes sense.
So that sped it up some, but still, it's still backlogged. There's still more transaction than these blocks can hold.
Well, that's because we're getting more and more people in on it.
Well, sure, yeah, and that's what they're saying. So what certain of these miners and developers want to do is they say, well, we need to increase the size of these blocks to 2 megabyte instead of 1. Get twice the transactions in there, and that'll solve the problem. And then in the meantime, because that, it should bring the miners' fees back down, because now everybody's getting into the block, their transactions are getting in there, and nobody has to pay the higher fees to get their transaction above other transactions.
Yeah.
So that's where the thought came in, to change the protocol, change the rules, so we can adjust for this and make it more smooth. And I see there's a need to do something. So anyway, when they put the SegWit in originally, now SegWit 2x means double the size of the block, but when SegWit first came in, they also put some code in there, so when this Lightning program came forth, it would adapt easily to the blockchain and the SegWit code. Now they've been working on this Lightning, and Lightning has been instituted into LiteCoin, and it's working pretty effectively as I understand it. So there's a bunch of miners that want to go to the 2x, and some of the core developers and some of the other miners want to stay with the original and just wait and let's get Lightning involved and that'll solve all the problems. They think by going to the double size of block for holding transactions might cause problems in the future. So that's been the debate. And to change this protocol, you just there's actually like a debate in it, or two sides to the coin, two sides to the argument. So they're going to fork it off and to create and to have a separate block or a separate chain come off the original. That's making sense so far, Rod.
Yeah, a little complicated.
It is, and there's certain.
Let's just keep it simple. So it's going to make the whole blockchain run smoother.
Well, it is, but it's just not that simple, because if SegWit 2 forks off and the majority of the miners jump on board with that,
okay,
then they want to also assume the name of Bitcoin and not Bitcoin SegWit 2, whatever they're going to call it. So
I see.
If all the miners jump on board of the new chain and the other one slows down, and all of us have our coins on the original chain, well, they'll all be swapped over. And so that's why everybody kind of gets duplicate coins or of both chains. You know, if SegWit 2 starts, you're going to get a matching coin for each Bitcoin you have or each partial Bitcoin you have.
Yeah.
And then this is where that replay kind of comes in. So, okay, folks, I think I found what I wanted to share. And I hope I explained that right. So let me just go over it real quick one more time. And I'm just going to put it in simple terms. So every 10 minutes, you have a block that gets added to the blockchain. And so many transactions can fit in that block. So for numbers, let's just say 1,000 transactions go into each block, size-wise. So in that 10-minute period, let's say there's 2,000 transactions, but it only holds 1,000. So that second 1,000 group of transactions has to wait for the next block. Well, when 10 minutes lapses and the next block comes in, they fill that in, basically. But now you might have 2 more 1,000 transactions in the wait line. So you can see how this kind of backs up, and everybody's waiting and waiting to get their transactions verified, so they can either use their coin or sell it or whatever the case. So that's been the whole problem. So part of the miners and feel that if they double the size of the block, to double the size, then they can get a lot more transactions in there, and it should speed things up again. When you do a transaction, it'll immediately go onto the blockchain within a few seconds or minutes, and you might not have to wait 10 or 20 minutes. So what I wanted to share with you, though, clear as mud, huh, Rod?
Clear as mud.
Here's another article, and it kind of talks about who's supporting the split. The main advocates for the bigger blocks, the 2 times, the 2x, are Bitcoin miners who are specialized computer rigs. Special miners who use specialized computer rigs to compile transactions on the blockchain. They earn Bitcoins. So while they're using their software and their mining rigs, they get paid quite a bit. So therefore, splitting this and going to the bigger block size, I think they feel they're going to get
double the money.
Maybe. Who's opposing it? Opposition is led by a group of developers who maintain the core software has so far defined Bitcoin. They like where it is. They just feel they need to speed it up with this Lightning platform and some of these things, and what SegWit did. So nobody's really sure about who's going to prevail. And like I said, it's kind of up in there. This is a big fork. It's not like Bitcoin Gold or Bitcoin Cash. There is an even split on this side right now. And if you go to so here's a list of the main, not a list, this is kind of a graph that shows the Bitcoin pools, meaning a pool is like everybody joins their hash rate, their capacity to solve these mathematical equations and to earn the rewards into a pool, so they have more oomph to get the block and be rewarded in free Bitcoins. So some of these pools are really what determines this. So if you got a majority of these big pools and these miners going to SegWit 2x, and they stay over there, that might phase out the original Bitcoin chain that we're on now, Rod.
Oh.
But on the other hand, if you have all the regular Joe Schmo consumers like us, more so on the original blockchain, the miners might get cold feet and come back over and keep the original chain the main chain. So it's kind of up in the air. That's what I'm saying. There's such a discrepancy of how many and who's going where. Not discrepancy, that was the wrong word. So it's kind of up in the air right now which one's actually gonna prevail on this. So the safe thing to do, folks, is probably, and we read in yesterday's video that Coinbase even said they would match however many coins you have on Coinbase and Bitcoin, they'll match it with the SegWit 2 coins when they get released. But still, it's an exchange, and you still, I don't know, you still don't know what's going to happen. I still believe you need to keep your coins within your own personal wallets or hardware wallet to where you hold the private keys and you're in control. Most of these big wallets will make sure you get your matching coins when the dust settles, and then it comes back into that replay. Okay, so you got 2 forks. Your address, Rod, on the blockchain is now on both those forks.
Yeah.
Okay, you follow me? Because it just split off. You. So now if you go to the SegWit 2x to reclaim your coins and you do a transaction to get that transaction can, if an attacker grabs it and goes over to the original blockchain and does that transaction, he might be able to send your original Bitcoins to his address. You left a window open, kinda. See, so that's what they're saying. That's what they call the replay. That they're going in over the other blockchain and replaying the transaction and stealing your coins. And it might just be even a mistake, somebody doing a foolish thing. So now they're saying that when there's forks like this, SegWit2x ought to put some replay precautions in there that would prevent that from happening. And SegWit2x, there's been articles that says, yes, we have put that in place, so they won't be able to capture both coins, the new and the old.
Oh.
But who knows for sure? I would still rather have my coins in a wallet to where I can control it. And like Bitcoin Gold, let the dust settle for a couple days. Those coins aren't going anywhere. You're going to be able to recapture them and get them. But what people are so antsy about is because maybe right after the fork, the price shoots up, let's say on Bitcoin SegWit2x, and people are going to want to cash out of those new coins real quick.
Yeah. So
I understand that too, but just be cautious. Be sure you kind of know where you're headed and what you want to do with this.
Amen to that.
And then there was an interesting thing about from Charlie Lee on LiteCoin. He's the founder of LiteCoin. Charlie Lee, I think, worked for Coinbase and came up with this LiteCoin idea and split off. And LiteCoin's been a great platform. We're just all waiting for it to get valuated higher.
To get going.
So he says here that some of the miners has stopped signaling for SegWit2x, Bitcoin hard fork. He actually made a comment, and it's in this article. This article probably has it too, but LiteCoin creator says Bitcoin will suffer if SegWit2x succeeds. So he's even saying if enough miners go over to the SegWit2x, oops, I didn't even show you that. If enough miners go over to the SegWit2x, it could affect the original Bitcoin chain that we're all on now. So it really just have to wait and see how this whole thing plays out and protect your coins. And so that's basically the understanding behind it all. Do you have any questions or something I didn't cover, Rod, that I should have?
No, like you said, it's clear as mud. I think the main thing is just sit and wait.
Yeah.
Hold your coins, let the dust settle. I think that's the best advice you gave. Sit down, keep your wallet safe. Make sure that you can't get that damn replay. These crooks getting there trying to steal them. Because there's a lot of them on there, and they keep trying to do it, you know.
Yeah. Well, we only got about 11 days left. Folks, we're going to put 3 or 4 articles in the description box that you maybe ought to take the time to read and get a better understanding and kind of decide how you want to play this out. And you might want to go with the new block size. I don't know at this point. I think I'm not going to even say what I'm feeling, I guess. All right, folks. Thanks for watching.
Appreciate it very much. Thumbs up. Remember that. God bless.